Welcome, my constant reader friends. I'm Tad, and this is Tad Reads Books and Stuff. All right, so this is the next installment in the Marvel-ous team-up. Yep, you know it well. It's the team-up of Tad and Grozz. And Grozz from the GKBC. We get together every other week or so, and we read a graphic novel together, and then we do a video discussing the graphic novel. We did announce that our next one for this next series is Preacher. Yeah, Preacher by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. I love the cover artwork on this, even the back here. Very evocative. The artwork in here is fantastic. I'm really digging the artwork, but we're going to talk a little bit about the book. So there's actually 6 books in the completed series, and there's 12 issues in each book. So that's a lot of reading, a lot of videos, and we decided let's do it in chunks. So we're going to do 6 chapters an episode. That way it's not going to take us all year to get through this, but it is a lot. 6 issues is a lot to go over in a video without taking forever. So I took some notes, and I'm going to try to refer to them to help me speed this along, but I'm also just purposely going to try to speed it along if I can. So let's start off with just the cool ass artwork in this. So this is an exploded picture, of course, from the cover. This is our protagonist. This is Jesse, and Custer is his last name, and he's the preacher. We're going to meet him. We're going to talk about him. Opens up with a short little, where is it? A short little introduction by Garth Ennis. Let's see, he wrote it in February of 2009. It's called The Greatest Thing Since Sliced Bread. I'm not even going to go over that, but it's a nice little intro to the book. So, we open at the 5 Aces Diner. That's up here. I hope you can see that. And this is a diner. I'm going to call them our motley crew. So we've got this crew of 3 individuals. And we can see them also here right at the beginning. They're sitting in a booth, getting something to eat. We have 3 of them down here. And we'll discuss what happens, but this here is Cassidy. Then you can see the blonde here. That's Tulip. And then the preacher himself, Jesse. And what they're doing in this diner is they're discussing, they're trying to get their stories straight and kind of just immerse themselves in what's been happening to them, because what's been happening has been, you know, like a ball of fire. It's really been just, you know, one thing after the other, faster, faster, faster. They're kind of just taking a break and kind of getting their heads straight and discussing what's going on, what's happened so far, and where they're going to go in the future. So this is a cool way of the writer to have them tell the story of how they've gotten to this point. And that's what they're doing. We see Jesse. It's called, the first chapter is called The Time of the Preacher. And we see Jesse, we go back in time because they're telling their stories. Jesse looks a little bit more clean cut. His hair is nice and coiffed. He's wearing a white suit. And he's become the local minister of this small town in Texas. And he kind of loses his shit. he goes to this diner and he just starts blasting everybody in the diner because very few people are coming to his church. Very few people are listening to his sermons. He's just finding out that how nasty and horrible these people really are. And he confronts them and starts talking about it. And they don't take too kindly to him. Someone breaks a pool stick over his back in the diner, and they're not happy about that. So that's a little backstory. Then we go to this. Now these are angels, and they're in heaven. Okay, is that a space station? What is that? Now there's, of course, there's the seraph, and I can't remember what they call the other ones, but we have your standard angel with the wings, and then we have these dudes here in these gray suits. They're actually angels too. They're just a different type of angel. They're kind of like the people that work in the office for heaven. And the angels, I mean, are kind of scary looking. But they're badasses, of course, and then the guys that work in the office, they're kind of, I don't know, kind of jealous of these angels. But there's something going on that we really don't know about. But we've now been introduced to these angels, so that's another aspect. Then we go back in time, and now we're talking about Tulip's story. And she's pulling out a gun here, got a mean look on her face. She shoots a guy in his face. We don't really know what's going on, why she's doing this. Is she a hit woman? Maybe. But then a guy pulls up and gets shot in the head here. Yep, that's Cassidy. So Cassidy swings up and he kind of saves her because these people now are chasing her because her hit went bad. Apparently, she shot the face off of one guy but didn't kill, I think, the person she was supposed to. Now she's running away. They're shooting at her. They hit Cassidy in the head, but he doesn't even care. He's driving a truck. He says, "Get in." And he saves her. And they take off. Then we realize that something's going on. So the angels send down one of their kind to find the tomb right here of this guy. And what is he called? He's called the Saint of Killers. The Killer of Saints. The Saint of Killers. And they need him to track down this escaped being. Is it an angel? Is it not an angel? They're calling it Genesis. And they need somebody to track down this Genesis before he takes control of a human body and starts wreaking havoc and maybe telling some secrets that they don't want to get out. So they go down, and the dude finds the coffin and wakens this guy, the Saint of Killers, and he shoots the angel in the head and kills him. Blows his head off. Okay. So this guy's a badass. Now he's going to go hunt and try to find this Genesis. And what we find out is after Jesse really denigrated these people in this diner, the next Sunday, they all show up to church. Are they feeling guilty, or are they there to beat the crap out of him? We don't know, but as he's giving his sermon, this light busts through the front of the church and enters into Jesse. Yeah, you guessed it, that's Genesis. We still don't know really what Genesis is yet, but he is inhabiting Jesse, and as he does that, the whole church blows up, killing everybody in the church. At the time, Tulip is in the truck with Cassidy, and they're driving up to this because we find out Tulip and Jesse used to be an item. They used to be boyfriend and girlfriend, but Jesse left her, and she wants to find out why he left her. Well, we'll see if we ever find that out. But I mean, so now there's this big explosion. Of course, now the police are called in, and we meet this guy, the sheriff down here. This sheriff is a bigot. He's racist. He's white trash, and he just treats everybody horribly. But now they're investigating this. Jesse, Cassidy, and Tulip find Jesse passed out. He wasn't injured, of course, because now he's possessed by Genesis, and he can do some things now. He can do some magic with his eyes turn red, and he can suggest you to do something, and you'll do it. The cops come after them. They've got a helicopter because he's now the only person that's left from this massacre. The sheriff thinks that, I'm not going to use the word, there's a lot of racism in here, but the sheriff thinks that it's aliens that have black skin. That's not what he calls them, of course. I'm not going to use the word, but yeah, he thinks that it's black aliens that did this. But then Jesse's the only person surviving, so now he tells them to stand still, and Jesse just says, "Drop your guns," and all the police drop their guns. So he has this way of being able to suggest people do things, and they do them. But at the end of the chapter, we see, here comes the Saint Killer. And he's like an old-fashioned, they find him in Boot Hill. So he's like this old-fashioned gunslinger. He's got the guns hanging on his hip. And that's the end of chapter 1. Chapter 2 is called "And Hell Followed With Him." And now we're back in the police station, and the chief of police is asking the sheriff what the hell went wrong, because pretty much everybody gets killed except the sheriff by the Saint Killer. Jesse, Cassidy, and Tulip have gotten away. They took off in their truck. And he's trying to tell them what happens. They're not believing him, of course. How can one guy take down everybody? And he's telling them, we shot him up, and it didn't even act like the bullets hurt him at all. The FBI are called in. They're talking bad about the sheriff behind his back, like he's crazy. They tell a story about his son being a drug addict and deciding to kill himself. He puts a gun to his head. And let me tell you, this book is very irreverent. It's very visceral in its blood. There's blood and guts, and there's racism and sexism, and just a lot of really jerks. The way they talk to each other, the way they treat each other, the way they act. And you're going to see this throughout so far, at least these first 6 chapters. But like the sheriff's son put a gun to his face, pulled the trigger, but it didn't kill him. And this is what he looks like. They call him Butt Face. I mean, everything is very rude in this book, and almost, I know it wants to be irreverent. I know even the angels talk bad about the other angels. They talk bad about God. They talk bad about people on earth. The people on earth are talking bad about each other. They make them do horrible, disgusting things to each other. And I just have, it's almost like it's too much. It's so much, it just becomes obnoxious to me anyways. And I like edgy things. But it's almost like it's just trying too hard to be edgy, too hard to be, gross and mean, just mean. Jesse makes Cassidy stand on his head, and Cassidy's just trying to help him out. But Cassidy's an asshole too. There's this other gunslinger that appears apparently only to Jesse that he sees. We don't really know anything about this dude yet, who he is, where he came from. Nobody else can see him. But they're running away now to get away because now the FBI are hunting them down. The police are hunting them down. They go to get some clothes for Jesse so he just doesn't look the same. And we see more of the angels talking about something's going on, and we just don't want Genesis to get out there and tell everybody what's actually really happening in heaven. So we don't know what that is yet. We get to towards the end of chapter 2, and there's a bar fight with the motley crew and these white trash guys at a bar. They get in a fight. One of the guys stabs Cassidy right in the eyeball with a knife, and it doesn't faze him because Cassidy is a vampire. All right, so now end of chapter 2, but look at this. The artwork is fantastic. I really dig the artwork. It's awesome. But I gotta speed this up. We're going into chapter 3. Chapter 3 is what is it? And the horse you rode in on. It opens up with those administrative angels getting drunk because the one angel that he sent down to find the saint killer got killed. I don't know that you could just shoot an angel and kill him, but I guess you can. Now we're discussing about Cassidy being a vampire and Jesse yelling at him, "You're an abomination." So then Cassidy gets pissed off and takes his truck and takes off and leaves them behind. They're hiding out in a hotel room. The sheriff decides, well, 2 cops go to investigate this bar fight. While they're at the bar, who shows up? The Saint Killer, and the Saint Killer kills the 2 cops that are investigating the bar fight. Jesse and Tulip are now hiding in a hotel room right there by the bar. Now the FBI come. The sheriff was sent home. He's talking with his son on the couch, but he doesn't care about his son. He doesn't really want to have anything to do with him or listen to him. Tulip and Jesse had this sexual, banter going back and forth. Are they going to hook back up? He thinks she wants to. She says she doesn't. She says she's just there because she wants to know why the hell he left her just out of the blue. He wants to know what the hell's going on with her. Why is she running? Why does she have a gun? What is Cassidy, talking about? They go into, but then the cops go into the bar, and all the people in the bar are killed by this Saint Killer. Cassidy's in there and punches him in the face, and it doesn't even faze him. He doesn't even flinch, and he shoots Cassidy in the chest. But of course, Cassidy is a vampire, so he's not going to die, but it still blows him away. We find out some information because Genesis is starting to make Jesse understand some things that are going on. And what we find out is that Genesis is actually the love child of an angel and a demon. So an angel and a demon fall in love, have sex, and birth this being who we're calling Genesis. And because it's a mixture of both good and evil, this Genesis might actually be as strong as God. All right, so what does that have to do with anything? Well, we don't know, but then the sheriff finds where Tulip and Jesse are hiding in the hotel room, and puts a gun to their head and says, you're going to come with me, open your mouth and I'll shoot you, I'll kill you. And that's the end of the chapter. So now we're into the next chapter. And this one is kind of interesting here. There's a lot that goes on in these chapters. These chapters aren't small, aren't short by any means. But now we're kind of having, the sheriff takes Jesse out, and we see a little back history of the sheriff when he was a little kid, and he's watching John Wayne. And that's why he wants to become, a lawman in the South, in Texas. But it's also how he kind of becomes very racist and very misogynistic and anything you might want to think about like that. He takes them outside. He says, "You're going to come with me." Oh, then Tulip pulls out her gun. Now they're in a Mexican standoff. But then here comes, the Saint Killer. And the sheriff knocks Jesse out. And now the sheriff is pissed off because the Saint Killer killed all the cops. So now they're going to have a shootout at the OK Corral kind of thing. And then here comes Cassidy. He's not really quite healed from the gunshot to his chest, but he's not dead because he's a vampire. He comes out and he's driving a car, and he drives or a truck. He steals a truck. And he drives the truck right into the Saint Killer, and it doesn't faze him. It just wraps around, and Cassidy goes flying through the windshield. Of course, again, he's a vampire, so it's not gonna really hurt him. But when the sheriff went to find the people, his son hid and snuck in the back of his car. So now the Saint Killer is going to kill his father, and his son comes running out of the back of the car. "Don't kill my father." But of course, because his mouth is all messed up, he talk, I'm not going to make fun of him. He can't talk clearly, even though he's saying, "Don't kill my dad." Anyways, then Jesse does his red eye stuff and says, "Enough! Back in your holster." And because he can control what people do, he even can control the Saint Killer. And the Saint Killer puts his gun in his holster and he gets in his face. He says, "I'm going to kill you." He knows that Genesis is in Jesse, and that's what his job is to find this Genesis and kill this Genesis before it can tell the secret of heaven to anybody. But Jesse's kind of, controlling him. And then he gets pissed off at the sheriff, and he tells the sheriff, "Go F yourself." But then one of the angels comes down, but it's not, it's fake. It's one of the guys that works in, accounting in heaven or whatever, wherever they work. And he says, "All right, stop it. Cut the S. You're going to tell me what's going on." And because when he says things, people have to obey him, this angel tells him what's going on. He tells him, he confirms that an angel had sex with a demon, and that they made this Genesis, and this Genesis is as strong as God, and Genesis has come down to earth and entered a person, Jesse, and they're afraid that this information from heaven's going to come out. What is the information? Tell me what the information is. The guy has to tell him. And the information is that when this Genesis was born, God quit. Yep, God skipped. He skedaddled. He's out of there. He just leaves heaven. God has left heaven. Nobody knows where he is, what he's doing. Is he on a walkabout? Is he on a sabbat? Where is he? So that's what we find out the secret is. And Jesse decides to make it his goal now to find God. So that's where we're at. He tells the angel to get lost. He has to leave. He tells the Saint Killer to get lost. He has to leave. And then he tells the sheriff to go F himself. And because they have to do what he says, the sheriff actually physically F's himself and ends up in an ambulance and is so embarrassed. The son comes up and says, "Dad, Dad." And the sheriff says, "Give me my gun, son." And so he gives him his holster with his gun, and his father kills himself. Now, what happens at the end of that chapter is, of course, now the son wants revenge against Jesse. So now his son is sworn that he's going to take his revenge for his father out on Jesse. That's the end. It's called Standing Tall is the name of that chapter. Here's the end page, and then here's the new cover page of the next chapter. Yeah, so it seems like Buttface finds somebody and Mickey's them and cuts their face off because he wants to have a better face. I don't know. They don't really go much into it. But that's kind of the end of that story arc. So now we've gotten to the point where they're sitting in that diner telling this story of everything that's happened to them. It's still a little bit more in the future. But now we're going into chapter 5. And chapter 5 is called Say a Prayer for 7 Bullets. And chapter 5 is kind of now a new story arc. So we're into a new story arc. We meet this dude. His name's Tool. He's a cop in New York City. And he's the most unlucky cop in the history of the world. He's horrible. He runs these guys down, click. He's going to go shoot them. His gun doesn't work. But then his partner, who's called Bridgers, is a badass. And he comes and saves the day. So it's these two cops that are working together. One is a buffoon, and his name's Tool, of course. And then Bridgers is the cool cop, the blonde-haired, big, strong, badass cop. And they're actually looking for a serial killer in New York City. Yeah, then we see a scene where, yeah, the face is ripped off a guy. I'm assuming by Buttface. Now we go back into the Motley Crew are now in New York City. So this is again a new kind of story arc. They're starting their search for God. They're trying to find a way to get some leads on where God is, and of course Cassidy, the vampire, has a buddy in New York City called Cy, and he's big into cryptids and conspiracy theories and UFOs and things like that. And he thinks that maybe he could help him find a lead on God. So we meet Cy. He's kind of an overbearing jerk, but Cassidy swears by him, says he's a great guy. They've been friends forever. Then we see a little bit more of the action between the two cops, the badass cop and the loser cop, and their dynamic with each other and how they rough arm people, or well, the badass one rough arms people. But then we have a brief moment where we see that the badass cop is at home and he's on his knees and he's crying. So something's going on with him. We're not sure. We haven't really delved into that too much. This chapter is kind of, like I said, kind of morphing into a new storyline. We're in New York City. Jesse and Cassie are back together, kind of becoming buds. You know, even though he's a vampire and Jesse called him an abomination, he apologizes, and you know, we come back. They get drunk together. They start drinking. They go to a pool hall. You know, and now we're into the next chapter. We're into chapter 6 finally, and yeah, Jesse and Cassidy are in a pool hall getting drunk, playing pool. Tulip is home, or in their apartment, taking a shower. We still don't know Tulip's deal. Why is she a hitman? What was she doing? Why does she have the gun? Jesse confronts her again. There's sexual tension. This chapter is called New York's Finest, and it delves a little bit more into the partnership of Bridgers and Tool, and we also see some more Psy. So there's a serial killer. Again, they're trying to track them down. We do see some interaction with that, but Bridgers, the badass cop, has got some issues. Something's going on, and he kind of like takes off and calls in sick. Tool's in the office. He gets a phone call. It's from the serial killer. And so he starts talking to him, but then things are coming out in the newspaper that only the cops should know, that the newspaper people shouldn't know about the serial killer, and that's kind of weird. We go to the apartment now. Cassidy calls Psy over. Psy comes over. They start talking about, where they're going to start their search for God. Psy talks about this guy called the Big Man, who became blind, but doesn't use a cane or a seeing eye dog or anything, and he doesn't have any issues with his blindness. He can do whatever he wants. He says it's because he talks to God. So they're thinking they can go talk to this big man, and he's going to help them, with a lead to find where God is. We don't know. We'll see. But they decide to just hang out that first night and just get drunk. They wake up the next day, opens up in the police station. Chief of police is asking Tool, where the hell's Bridgers? He doesn't know. He gets another call from the serial killer. We flash to the apartment. It's the next day. They've got hangovers because they drank so much. Of course, Cassidy can't go out during the day because he's a vampire. He'll burn up. So he stays in the apartment. Tulip, Jesse, and Psy take off in Psy's car to find the big man. They get there. Tulip's still sick. She's hungover. Jesse says, I'm going to go talk to the dude. Psy tells him where to find him in this apartment building. Jesse takes off. Excuse me. Tulip decides to stay in the car with Psy. And Psy says, I might have some Snapple for you, because she's not feeling good. She's hungover. And flash back to the apartment. Cassidy is looking through some books on the shelf, and he's like, wait a second, this is weird. What the hell's going on? We flash to the car where Tulip's sitting there with Psy looking for some Snapple. And then as she's looking through the glove compartment, Psy says, oh, it's right here. And he spins around and slams a knife through her hand into the dashboard of the car. As we see Cassidy back in the apartment opening up a refrigerator door and going, there's something in the refrigerator that he's found. So is Psy a friend of Cassidy? Is Psy maybe the serial killer? Is Psy crazy? Who knows what's happening? I mean, Jesse is just, near there, but I don't know. That's the end of chapter 6. That's it, guys. 6 chapters. Kind of convoluted, kind of all over the place. So, after the first 6 chapters, I keep it real. I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm not really digging it. I'm not. The artwork is fantastic. I'm loving the artwork. This is 6 books, 12 issues a book. If it's an issue, they publish an issue of a comic once a month. We're talking about a 6-year run of this, and it's very popular. Tons of people put Preacher up in the top 100, comic book series ever made. Everyone talks about Garth Ennis. Steve Dillon, they should, because his artwork is fantastic. But I'm not digging the storytelling. I'm not digging the character developments. I'm not digging the writing style. It's kind of convoluted and all over the place. Hopefully this is just the first 6 chapters, and it must get better, I'm hoping, because it's 6 books. They made a TV series out of it. I'm hoping it's going to settle down and get better. I'm hoping that this just being as irreverent and mean and rude and gross as it can be, it isn't just for that sensationalism, because it gets, like I said, it gets a little obnoxious after a while. It gets boring after a while. I enjoyed it to a point, but then I was like, I'm not digging it. So I don't know. You know me, no DNFs. I'm gonna keep reading through it. There's got to be some redeeming value in it. Right now, I'm just not seeing it. I'm being totally honest. But we'll keep going. All right. So sorry if you've stuck through this whole crazy video. Maybe you've kind of started to see where we're going with this story. I hope it gets better. That's all I can say. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video at all. If you do, please like, subscribe, leave me some comments, and until next time, peace out.